welcome to Bytes, where we're mastering business technology one byte at a time. My name is Alan Duncan, and I'll be your host today. This episode is Beyond Features and Functions, selecting enterprise software in the digital era. Today's business landscape is evolving rapidly. Technology takes centre stage, whether it's streamlining processes, enhancing decision-making, driving revenue, or enabling new products. Software applications form the bedrock of most organisations. From predictive and generative AI to deep learning, the quest to harness the power of the cloud knows no bounds. But amidst this digital revolution, are we optimising our approach to selecting the right software vendors and their solutions? In the mid-1990s, as a first-time manager, I was eager to make a difference as part of a business process re-engineering team. Today we'd call it digital transformation. Almost inevitably, we concluded we needed to replace our homegrown, clunky planning software with something more efficient and modern. We were to enter the era of packaged software solutions. A time when the internet was novelty, cloud was the dust kicked up by a Ford Escort XR3i on a dirt track, and the web was still something spiders made. So we were to transform the planning process with the aid of new, faster software to work with our highly customised green screen ERP system. In those days, internal communication was mainly through paper memos delivered via the mailroom. External emails were rare, and serious collaboration meant getting in a car, train or plane and travelling to a meeting point. Decisions happened at the pace of the mailroom. Back then, software packages were sold with perpetual licenses and installed from CDs onto hardware in our server room at our premises. We paid an annual fee for software maintenance and support, with the latest upgrades and bug fixes coming annually on CDs. So in 1995, how did we go about choosing the best solution for our needs? Well, first we consulted the analysts and reviewed the Gartner Magic Quadrant for likely software vendors. Then we prepared and issued an RFI to get a feel for the vendors. Based on that request for information, we selected 5 vendors to include in our request for proposal. We prepared and issued the RFP with all our functional and non-functional requirements. And then we viewed vendor first presentations and demos. Once we received the RFP responses, we scored the vendors and down-selected to 2. We then entered into detailed discussions and custom demos with both. After that, we selected the preferred vendor and kept one as a backup, while we negotiated price, timelines, and start dates. Finally, we signed contracts and we were off. Fast forward to 2024 and a lot has changed. The internet is omnipresent, more powerful than we ever imagined. If you're not tweeting, Instagramming or vlogging, you're literally 100% ancient. Cloud is where the software lives. No more CDs, just seamless access to computing power on demand. Software contracts last 3 to 5 years, not a lifetime. And we've said goodbye to monolithic applications. Now it's all about microservices, small, nimble components that work together harmoniously with artificial intelligence built in. No more massive upgrade projects. Frequent updates happen quietly in the background. Integration used to mean wrestling with CSV flat files. Now it's APIs and open data sources giving seamless and on-demand data exchange. No more daily or weekly batch runs. Implementations happen through sprints, scrums, and minimum viable products rather than waterfalls. So fasten your seatbelts. We're jumping on the digital highway where there's no speed limit. We're off to find the right software vendor that will propel our digital transformation in the 2020s. So how do companies typically do that today? First, they'll consult the analysts, perform some web research, and review the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Once they've selected some likely vendors, they'll prepare and issue an RFI. From the RFI responses, they'll select 4 or 5 vendors to include in an RFP. They prepare and issue the RFP with all their functional and non-functional requirements. But wait, isn't that almost exactly the same as we did in the 1990s? It's true, the landscape of enterprise software has transformed dramatically over the last 3 decades. But despite all the changes, we're still selecting software the same way we did 30 years ago. Shouldn't we be doing things differently? As someone who's sat on both sides of the table during a selection process, as a prospective buyer and seller, I've experienced many evaluations that follow these 11 steps. Often the outcome of a lengthy evaluation concludes that multiple vendors can meet the needs of the buyer. Whilst this might be reassuring for the buyer, less risk of a bad decision, is it really the case that there are no major differences between the various products on the market? The reality is there are differences, confirmed by Gartner's critical capabilities research and the many patents held by vendors. Each solution has its unique flavours. So why doesn't the tried and tested selection process highlight these nuances? The answer lies in where buyers focus their evaluation efforts. Buyers still dedicate most of their structured assessments to individual features and functions. But what about other factors like value delivery? How will a vendor uniquely impact your organisation beyond mere functionality? These questions often remain unasked. Buyers may ask vendors to present relevant use cases, but the reality is these use cases are usually, show me how you would do X, where X is something like manage new product introduction or handle date code inventory. Seldom is the question asked, how will you uniquely deliver value to my organisation? Or how much of my business case can uniquely be delivered by your solution? Nor are vendors presenting their solutions in a way that demonstrates the unique value they can deliver. They may perform a value assessment, but does that really show how specifically that vendor will deliver unique or incremental value versus the other vendors? It's not just about value either. It's time to broaden the spotlight to examine 4 critical dimensions when selecting enterprise applications today. Those 4 dimensions are needs, value, risk, and longevity. Needs. What are my business objectives and how does that vendor uniquely meet those needs now and as my needs evolve? Value. How will the vendor uniquely deliver value to help me achieve my ROI target and associated business KPIs? Risk. To what extent does this vendor present a manageable level of risk? And finally, longevity. If I partner with this vendor, then will they be able to support my business in the future as it inevitably evolves and develops, or will I be compelled to go back to the market to search for alternative vendors? Buyers may feel they're already looking at these 4 dimensions, but in reality, they're usually not doing so in a structured way. Value, risk, and longevity are seldom formally scored in the way that needs, or more accurately, features and functions are assessed. Too often the decision is vendor A and vendor B could both meet our needs, but we felt that people from vendor B understood our business better, or vendor A was cheaper and showed us a quicker implementation time. So why are we still following the same sequential feature and function-led selection process advocated by the analysts in the 1990s and still the basis of their recommendations today? Why don't we formalise the evaluation around all 4 dimensions? There's a market perception that a lot of enterprise software is broadly similar. Some applications are considered a commodity. In fact, any one will do. Software vendors are organised and conditioned to follow an RFP process that is centred around demonstrating features and functions. Software buyers, especially the business functions or end users, are probably doing this for the first and perhaps the only time in their career, and so they follow the recognised approach. Software buyers fear that they will choose a vendor that lacks some must-have features or functions if they don't deep dive on these. And then time becomes a factor. Evaluations almost always start later than expected and take longer than planned. So certain activities have to be expedited, particularly if there is a burning platform driving the decision making. Often the vendor selection is highly political. IT may want to stick with a single vendor. The business might want a vendor that meets their functional needs, even if it's not IT's preferred vendor. Buyers may have had previous experience with a certain vendor, and that can colour the selection for or against that vendor, depending on the experience. Vendors might offer to calculate potential value, but they want data from the buyer. Buyers are compelled to offer the same opportunity to all vendors, but they may not have anticipated the time or resource to support the deep value assessments with multiple vendors. It's not been planned as part of the selection process. Risk and longevity can be somewhat subjective, although they can be structured for evaluation. And finally, buyers lack trust in future statements made by vendors. So what are some of the costs of not evaluating the 4 dimensions in a structured and methodical way during the software selection? Here are just a few examples. Buyers select a vendor that might not deliver maximum value, leaving benefits on the table. The deployment timescales could extend significantly beyond the expected duration, diminishing the ROI and extending the payback period. Longer term, the buyer's business becomes constrained as it evolves, or costly workarounds are required, or businesses may be forced into replacing solutions sooner than planned, risking the ROI. As other vendors innovate and new technologies become available, they may have to be integrated into what would now be the legacy solution, creating a suboptimal and more costly architecture. In today's rapidly evolving business landscape, software applications form the bedrock of most organizations. The trends towards dynamic and highly innovative world of cloud computing means we can't just rely on selecting a vendor that has the features and functions to deliver what we need today. We must look at the value and the ROI, look to the future, and ensure we are selecting a vendor that meets our needs today and for the future, delivers value quickly, ensuring we hit our ROI at an acceptable level of risk, and still be a good business partner in the future as our business inevitably evolves and technology advances. Buyers need to formalise their evaluation of the 4 dimensions: needs, value, risk, and longevity. Whether you're a software buyer interested in understanding how Criona can help you make better software selection decisions, or a software vendor interested in how Criona can help you differentiate in the market, please get in touch. Thank you for watching this podcast, and please look out for more wise bites from Criona coming soon.